Okay, so
স্যার ফ্যান্সি ফরম্যাট গুলো সাধারণত দেখছি এক পৃষ্ঠার হয়, এক্ষেত্রে ব্যবহার করতে অসুবিধা।
কোন ফরম্যাট ভাই?
যে ফ্যান্সি ফরম্যাট মানে বিভিন্ন ওয়েবসাইট থেকে যে কালারফুল টেমপ্লেট গুলো আছে এগুলো সাধারণত এক পৃষ্ঠার হয়ে থাকে, এগুলো 2 পৃষ্ঠা লেখা যায় না।
এক্স্যাক্টলি সেটাই বলতেছিলাম। সেই ক্ষেত্রেও যে ওগুলো তো আসলে বেসিক্যালি আপনার একটা গাইডলাইন।
Hello, sir. Hello.
হ্যাঁ, প্লিজ গো অ্যাহেড।
স্যার বলছিলাম যে যেহেতু আমি এখনো স্টুডেন্ট, তো এখন সেরকম এক্সপিরিয়েন্স হয়নি আমার, তো যখন আমরা কোনো অর্গানাইজেশনের সিভিটা সাবমিট করবো, মানে ফিজিক্যালি প্রিন্ট আউট সিভি সাবমিট করবো, সেক্ষেত্রে সেটা কেমনভাবে সাবমিট করবো? মানে ফাইলিং করে নাকি কমেন্ট করে নাকি পিন আপ করে?
Okay, so we'll discuss these things in this module. So let's have patience for some more minutes. Yeah, so now we are going to discuss about the presentation and aesthetics of a CV. So yeah. Okay. So first of all, paper. So what should be the ideal size of your paper? So definitely the ideal size is A4, no other size. Like sometimes we use letter size, B4, B5 I guess, or something like that. So do not use any kind of size, just use A4 straight. And ideal is 100 GSM, but it's quite difficult to get 100 GSM, or sometimes it's a bit expensive. So 80 GSM A4 paper works quite fine. And do not ever use colored or pattern paper. So it is no go. And if you want, and I don't think this kind of paper is quite available in the local shops that we actually use to purchase this paper. Like there are another kind of A4 paper that is a slightly off-white, which is called high white paper, and it gives a subtle cream feeling. So you can also use this paper, but you just need to have the access. Like in the conventional stationery shop, it is quite difficult to get, but if you have access to this subtle off-white paper, that will make your CV more exotic. But in that case, you will also have to have a good printer at your home, or like a jet printer or a laser printer, otherwise it won't feel good. So but it is good to go with plain white paper if you do not have access. So yeah, it is all right to use off-white paper, but in A4 size. But otherwise the standard is A4 size paper, 100 to 80 GSM, and definitely a white paper. So this is the rule of using paper. So then it comes about typeface and font. So we actually we actually know font by the font name. Like we say that Times New Roman or Calibri Arial is a font. It is not actually font as per theory. Theoretically, these are typeface. So that is why it is mentioned here. Like you can use any kind of typeface or font, but Times New Roman is quite backdated. Nobody uses this kind of font nowadays. So better to go with Calibri, Arial, Bardena, or similar kind of font, which is quite readable. And you can use both bold and italic format of your font or typeface, but we use actually bold for highlight our heading and a section within our paragraph. Like if you want to highlight your specific soft skill, you can use bold fonts. And try not to use italics, because italic is very hard to read. It is not readable. But if you are smart enough, you can use in some segment, like when you are writing objective or career summary, this kind of subsection can be italicized. And the font size should be 11 to 12. 12 is good. 11, 12 both are good if you are using Calibri or Arial, this kind of font. Even if you are using Arial, 10 looks also fine. So try to stick within these measurement parameter, and always make your headline or your name stands out by using 13 or 14 points font. So these are the basic about fonts. You do not need to experiment or go beyond these rule of thumb. It's a quite acceptable and basic rule of thumb. So always follow these basic rule of thumb while choosing typeface and font. So big thing, color. So you do not have to use different colors in your CV. Stick to black. In certain cases you can use color, but it's not mandatory or it's not required. Someone is saying, like, you see lots of format which are using different kinds of color and color themes, so it is better not to use different colors in a CV. Just go with black and white. And in some cases you can use color, but you should stick in with if you choose a color to use, definitely it should be a blue. So blue is quite readable and it's quite soothing. So you should go with blue and the pattern of blue, but not in any other color. Why we suggest to use black and white, black color, since the recruiter may have a printout of your CV. They won't use a color printer. They will use a black and white printer, so or grayscale printing. So it looks good if you use only black color in your CV while you print in grayscale and black and white. So it becomes readable. Otherwise, the color got distorted. So that is why it is always said to use only black in your CV. So I guess you have already have my answer. You do not need to be worried about the colorful CV. Black is quite good. White space. So it's a critical thing in any design. So what is white space? White space is actually the spaces in the CV which do not have the impression of print, like the space which are left white, like the areas beyond the margin, or the space between your line or space between your word. So white space is quite necessary thing. Sometimes we see lots of CV without a good margin or very poor line spacing, or even 1.5, 2.5 line spacing. So this is not allowable. You have to ensure allowable level of white space. So it is also called a breathing space. Like, it helps the reader to breathe between the lines when they actually go through your CV. So white space includes margin, line spacing, and gaps, section spacing. This is this kind of thing. So the general rule of thumb is to have 1.5 to 2 inch margin at the top, and 1.5 to 1 inch margin at the bottom, and have 1 inch margin in both left and right side. This is the general rule of thumb. And always try to have a larger margin space in top, since you will have to use a stapler. So if you have just 1 inch margin in the top, some of your printed content may get under the stapler. So it is better to have at least 1.5 to 2 inch margin in the top. In the line spacing, do not ever use 1.5. Always go with line spacing 1. And section spacing is allowed to have like the conventional default section spacing that you have in the Word. This will do. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to accommodate everything within 2 pages. So you should also be aware of readability and consistency in layout. So readability means it is easy to read through your lines. Like, if you write long sentence, paragraphs after paragraph, it becomes very difficult to scan through your write-up, and HR may get uninterested to review your CV and just dump your CV. So it is better to use small sentence, shorter paragraph, and even use bullet points to make your CV readable. And always try to be consistent with your layout. Like, if you are using 12 point as your heading, you have to use 12 point in all of your headings. If you are using like a tab in starting of any paragraph, you should use a tab in every paragraph, start of your every paragraph. Just make your layout looks consistent, like everything is well organized and balanced. Otherwise it is not, it becomes unreadable. So it actually about the layout, it means about the formatting. So you have to have a formal formatting, a nice looking formatting to make your CV stand out. So as you can see, those color and theme is not an issue. The issue is whether your CV is readable and whether you have a consistent layout or not. Yeah, here comes the graphics. So nowadays we are seeing lots of CV includes the icons, symbols, and word arts. So this is unprofessional. You do not need to use word art or icons or symbols in your CV. But if you download CV templates from some I should say unauthorized or fancy websites, they will show you CVs with lots of icon and symbols. So these are not conventional, then these are not acceptable. So you won't see a single symbol or icons in the CV format in the template gallery of Microsoft Word or Google. So avoid, or it is a big no go to use word or icon and symbol. So don't get frustrated to see that your colleagues have a beautiful looking CV having lot of graphics and icons and symbols. So you do not have to use it, and do not experiment it with these graphics unless you know. Like if you are expert in Illustrator, then you know how to design, like it is called desktop publishing. If you're expert in desktop publishing, then you can do a bit of experiment. But if you do not have any experience or any theoretical knowledge about desktop publishing, it is you do not need to experiment with graphical formats. And as I mentioned, overuse of color and shapes can be suicidal, so it won't help you actually. So photos, I guess we have already discussed about photos, whether to use it or not. So yeah, in conventional Western world, photos are not allowed, but in Bangladesh is quite acceptable unless it is mentioned that you shouldn't include a photograph. Otherwise, you should always include a photo, and it's better to use a corporate headshot, like a good photograph. But your photograph should represent you, your friendliness, your smile, your look, and your personality. So I suggest go to a studio, take some good corporate headshots, and use those photos in your CV, not just the passport size photo and scan it, and it looks very flat and one-dimensional. And it's better to use grayscale color photos, so when someone prints out your photo, then it looks nice in grayscale. So you can also use grayscale photos, it's completely alright.
স্যার আমি একটা কোশ্চেন করতে চাচ্ছিলাম।
Sure.
স্যার জব ইন্টারভিউতে স্যালারি নেগোসিয়েশনের ব্যাপারটা একটু ক্লিয়ার করলে ভালো হতো।
Okay, sure. We'll have that section. Just allow me to finish this module. We're almost done. So yeah, now the printing. So it is always expected that you will use a high quality printer while sending a CV. So try to get a high quality laser printer if you want to really get that interview call. Never use one sheet to page or two pager. Always use two separate page to print your CV, and never print on both sides. And yeah, never use photocopy. So I've seen lots of people who just for the sake of saving some money use the photocopy, and it's quite visible that is a photocopy of your original CV. So always make an original printout of your CV. And staple, it's an interesting thing, but it's mandatory to, I thought it is mandatory to include. Like most of us know how to staple, but there are some people who doesn't know like how to staple. So you have like see you have to staple on the top left corner, and it has to be a slightly bend, it has to be slightly bended like this image. So you have to properly staple your CV. Otherwise, when the people who are reading your CV will want to turn up the page, it becomes very difficult to read and just use the point of stapling point. And sometimes I've seen people send CV with just a paper clip or just two sheets, separate sheets. So never do this kind of thing. Always staple your CV, and now it comes out envelope. So first of all, try to use a good quality envelope. It is very difficult to find in a day-to-day stationery shop, but since you are seriously applying for jobs, so try to visit some good shops and collect some good envelopes for your CV. So always try to match the quality of your CV and the cover letter with the envelopes quality. It has to match. It has to be aligned. Like you are using a good quality paper for your CV, but your envelope is very poor. It won't look professional. So what size should we use for folding our somebody asks like to fold our CV. Okay, so the most acceptable way is to use a A4 size envelope, but as you can understand, it's expensive and sometimes very difficult to actually transport this same size. If you put A4 size paper in A4 envelope, it becomes very difficult to transport. Like it gets it's very difficult. Like it's not very practical. But remember, if you are applying as we mentioned, like submitting a targeted CV for a CEO position, then you should never use actually fold your CV. Use the same good quality A4 size paper and A4 size envelope to submit your CV. But for the day-to-day application or people like us who actually regularly submit CV for different job opportunities, it is good to have a DL size envelope, that is the normal letter size envelope that we see around us. Like you just have to try fold your A4 size sheet into and you'd have to fold in 3 folder. So I guess you got your answer. So most obvious one should be the C4. The A4 size matches with A4 size envelope, but most practical would be DL, where you can just have your CV folded in 3 pieces. Okay, so I guess
so actually I have questions over there.
Yeah.
In today's world, most of the times actually we have submitted our CV in online, mainly in email section. So whenever we are goes through for interview session, is it mandatory to print a CV hard copy as a hard copy?
Yeah, it's not mandatory. It's mandatory for you to have a copy of your CV with you. If you are carrying, I guess, a bag or something, I guess you will be carrying something. So yeah, it's mandatory for you to have a backup copy.
Thank you so much.
But you do not have to proactively submit or share that CV with the interview board. Like they are supposed to have your CV, but you just have a printed copy as a backup.
স্যার আমার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল স্যার।
Yeah, sure.
স্যার আমি 3টা জায়গায় সিম্পল 3টা আইকন দিয়ে ট্রায়াল দিয়ে দেখছি স্যার, প্রিন্ট করলেও সুন্দরই লাগে, খারাপ মনে হয় না স্যার।
Yeah, let's go back to that slide.
স্যার লিঙ্কডইনের আইকনটা, মেইলের আইকনটা এবং ফোন নাম্বারের আইকনটা, এটা সিম্পল দিয়ে দেখছি, এটা ভালোই লাগে দেখতে স্যার।
Yeah, see the point too. I say do not experiment with graphic design unless you confidently know how to use it properly. Since you are confident, so you can use it. So it will actually depend like whether you can use it or not based on your confidence level and understanding of what should I say, basics of visual representation or illustration. I also have a CV that has a lot of visual thing in that CV. It also looks stunning. Maybe I'm bragging, but it also looks stunning. But it took me for around 5 or 7 years to be confident to send this kind of CV. And just to share the experience, the current job I'm doing, this CV I actually send it a CV that is a targeted CV and also a CV with a lot of graphics. So it's doable if you know how to do it.
Sir.
Yeah.
অনলাইনে মানে ইমেলের মাধ্যমে যদি সিভি সাবমিট করতে আসে তাহলে সেক্ষেত্রে আমার সিভিটা কি মানে রিনেম